Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and this is the first Silver Age price update of 2025. Last one I did was a wrap up of 2024 and how all the books performed. Now we're going to see how they all did for the first 2 months of 2025. So we've got January and February data to look at. We've been looking at 7 books over the past couple years. We've added books as we went along. We're going to add an 8th book today. I'm not going to tell you which one it is. We're going to do that one at the end. But let's get into it because we've got a lot to go through. All right, you know how I do it. I use GPA. I use Blue Label data, universal data only. And I take sales from the beginning of 2020 all the way through February of 2025. And how do I decide what grades to include? Because we can't include all the grades because there are some grades that don't sell for 6 months at a time, a year at a time, and you can't make comparisons on books that don't sell that often. So these books had to have at least one sale in 2020 and at least one sale in either January or February of 2025. So there you go. Let's get into it. First book, Amazing Spider-Man #1. So this is how we do it. I show you the entire trend from 2020 all the way through the end of 2024 over on the right-hand side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add in the next 2 months, January and February of this year, to see how the books are doing. So Amazing Spider-Man #1 ended the year at just over a $16,000 book on average. And yes, I use averages because that's what GPA uses. I get some people that say, you should use median. Well, I don't. People can feel free to make any video they want using median if that suits them better. But GPA uses averages. I want to use averages because if people want to go back and look at GPA compared to my numbers, I want them to be similar. I want them to have something to correlate to. So there you go. All right. So this book, just over a $16,000 book at the end of December. What happened in January and February? Here we go. The January point came in. And it was actually a little bit up. So we have 2 months in a row for ASM #1. And then February down a little bit. Overall, this book went up a little over $200 over the past couple months. So a mild 1% improvement or increase over the past 2 months. And then, I like to compare how this book did pre-COVID, beginning of 2020. This book is only up 7% over 5+ years. That is not much. So 7% gain with the overall trend still going down, even though the past couple months are going up. 7% is not much. Okay, let's look at the individual grades. So I show you this trend, I show you averages, but we also look at all the grades that sold as well. So these are the grades that went into the data. So it's kind of split. You have 1, 2, 3, 5 grades went up, 4 grades went down. The biggest grades, 8.0 and 7.0, had increases. So yes, that's going to, the bigger books with the higher prices are going to help drive the average. But in general, we're going to call this a slight win for Amazing Spider-Man #1. And look at that 2.5 down at the bottom here. 64% increase. My goodness. I think that book, it was like an $11,000 book and went up to almost $18,000 or something. I'm not sure who paid that much for a 2.5, but yikes. All right, there you go. So we're going to call it a positive, albeit a slight positive. Second book, Hulk #1, first appearance of the Incredible Hulk in his gray skin. This is the rarest of the Silver Age Marvel keys. When you look at how this book ended in 2024, there were a couple data points going up the right direction. Average price, $10,500. What happened in January? January, huge increase. And I'm going to show you what happened when I show you the individual grades. But a big increase for January, slight decrease for February. So the book went up by about $1,200, an increase of 11% over the past 2 months. And since 2020, it's up 26%. What happened though? Why did we see a huge jump in January? Well, here's what happened. There are not a lot of sales over the past couple months. This book doesn't sell as much as it is because it's so rare, especially these past 2 months. Very few sales and only 3 grades sold. And 2 of those 3 grades actually went down. So the real reason we're seeing that 11% increase is because of that 3.5 grade going up 62%. Wow. Not sure what else to say about that other than that drives the price. When you have a big sale and a big change in data, that much, it's going to drive the price. Nonetheless, the data is what it is. That's why I show you the averages, and that's why I show you the individual grades. So you can come to your own conclusion, all right? But still, 2 books now. ASM number 1, Hulk number 1, both showing positives for the beginning of the year. Will that trend continue? Let's keep going. X-Men number 1. A lot of discussion about when X-Men is going to come to the MCU, right? We are hearing rumors of it. And honestly, I haven't heard anything lately. So maybe I'm behind on the news, but I haven't heard anything definitive. Regardless, this book ended the year just over a $10,000 book. What happened in January and February? Here we go. First data point, down. January, not a good month. Did it rebound in February? Nope. Another slight downward tick, dropping by over $1,000. So this book is down 10% over the past 2 months. Still up 36% since pre-COVID times. But you look at the grades, 4 went up, 5 went down, including that 7.0, right? That really drives the average. Just like a green box on a high grade will drive the average, so will a red box. So there you go. That 7.0 is almost a 30% drop. Doesn't help the average at all. Nonetheless, another instance of more grades going down than going up, just like Hulk number 1. All right, let's keep going. First appearance of Iron Man, Tony Stark, Tales of Suspense number 39. This book, like the others, downward trend most of 2024, although December was a little bit of an uptick. $10,500 book to end the year. What happened in January? Well, the book had a huge drop. And then in February, a little bit of a recovery, but not much. So $1,000 drop over the first 2 months of the year, 9% drop so far, still up 31% since 2020. But you look at the grades, 3 went up, 4 went down. Again, more grades going down than going up, but that 7.5, that big grade, makes a difference when you look at the averages, right? Going down by 24%. So not a good start for Tony Stark for 2025. Here we go. A few more books to go through, then we're going to get to the new book. Fantastic Four number 1, Marvel's First Family. So we've had the first teaser trailer drop. What was it, a month ago, 2 months ago, something like that. And there's been all this build up, lots of stories, lots of casting news, lots of, sneak peeks of behind the scenes and of the filming going on. And you can see what happened towards the latter half of 2024. This book was slowly going up. So now the trailer dropped and it was very polarizing. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. I was not a fan. The second trailer was supposed to have been out by now. I don't know what's happened. My thought is that can't be good. And this is why. Because that first trailer, that teaser trailer is always supposed to be like the best of the best, right? Really supposed to draw you in. But because of how polarizing it was, it makes me think that they're making some changes to the trailer. They're doing something, and they're going to be very careful with when they release it and what content they release in it. That's my thought. All right. So anyway, let's see what the effects were of the trailer. Okay. January data point came in, big drop. And then February, another drop. This book dropped almost $2,500 on average. 14% since December. That trailer did not help this book at all. Marvel's First Family, not doing so well. Still up 22% since 2020, which is not a big percentage, to be honest. And this is still a fairly uncommon book. In terms of rarity, it's, I think, second only to Hulk number 1. I believe this is second rarest of all the keys, all the big keys from Marvel. Regardless, here are the grades. Not a whole lot of sales. 3 of them went down. 2 of them went up. Again, another example. Everything but ASM number 1 has had more grades going down than up. All right, so there's FF number 1. Now we'll go to FF number 5. This one I introduced right after the San Diego Comic-Con announcement last July, right? Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom. And here's what happened. So that little bump over here in July, if you look where my cursor is, that was kind of the honeymoon of the announcement for Dr. Doom coming into Avengers Doomsday. All right, and then the honeymoon wore off kind of quickly and it went down, but recovered a little bit towards the end of the year. Let's see, did the recovery keep going? Did it keep going up? Did the momentum of the announcement of Dr. Doom keep going into the first 2 months of this year? Here we go. January data point. Big drop. February data point. Another drop, albeit smaller. This book is down almost $1,000, down 12% to start the year. Not good for Dr. Doom. But this book is still up 39% since 2020. Not too shabby. But if you look at the grades, again, same thing as almost all the other books we've looked at so far. Only 2 grades going up, 4 grades going down. Not so good. Hey, listen, I'm happy not all grades are showing red, but you can't hide from the fact that more grades are going down, okay? I mean, the data is what it is. All right, let's keep going. This is the last of the books that we've gone through. After this, I'm going to introduce the new one. This is Amazing Fantasy 15, The King of the Silver Age. First appearance, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And this book has been trying to hold its own, but the drops have been continuing throughout 2024. This book ended still. It is still a very expensive book. Very, very valuable. Still on average, over a $40,000 book to end the year. $41,500 to be exact. Let's see what happened. January came in, kind of a big drop. February, equally big increase. So this book overall increased by almost $50. So we're going to call it a win. Just under 1% increase. A lot of people are going to get upset with me. The people that keep wanting books to drop, like, you can't win when you do these videos, right? Either people are going to say these videos are negative because I'm talking too much about the drops in prices, or they're going to say, hey, this book is a push. It's kind of even. Why are you saying it's an increase? Well, I'm just letting the data speak, all right? So this book, yes, it's less than 1% increase. Nonetheless, it's still up almost $50, and it's up 32% since 2020. But let's look at the grades. So here you have it. Again, just like Hulk #1, very few grades of this book have sold so far this year. Again, this is GPA data. Keep that in mind. And if you look, the 6.0 had a slight decrease. The 2.5 had a significant decrease, and the 4.0 had a somewhat significant increase. So that's why this book is almost even, although a little bit up. All right, not much movement. People are not buying this book, at least not to begin the year. All right, here we go. That's it for the 7 books. Let's get into the new book. What is it?
Cross the rainbow bridge of Asgard, where the booming heavens roar. You'll behold in breathless wonder the God of Thunder, mighty Thor.
Yes, Journey into Mystery number 83. Finally, the first appearance of the mighty Thor. Here's what we're going to do with the data. We're going to look at a little bit more data. So I'm only bringing this data up to the end of 2023, and I'm going to show you how the whole year of 2024 went, and then we're going to look at the first 2 data points of 2025, okay? So the trend looks very similar to the other books, right? Huge increases during COVID, big corrections, but it ended 2023 on a slight increase over the past couple months. All right, let's look at how all of 2024 did. I'm just going to let it roll. So again, you see this trend looking like the other ones, a slow burn, slight decreases, ending the year, a little bit of an uptick. The book is just over a $12,000 book on average with the grades that we're using, which I'll show you shortly here. Now we're going to look at the first 2 months of 2025. So what happened? Did the slow downward trend continue for Journey into Mystery, or did we see some increases? January came in flat. February came in flat again. So a very boring start to the year for Journey into Mystery, 83. But the book is still up $21. Even though it's flat, still up by $21. Again, less than 1% increase since December. And I'll show you the grades in a minute, which tells a little bit of a different story. But still, since beginning 2020, up by 33%. Not great, not terrible. Let's look at the grades. So here you go. That 8.0 really is driving the average and keeping it from dropping, because you look, 5 of the 7 grades all dropped over the last 2 months. You had the 8.0 and the 2.5, which increased, but you had the 6.0, the 5.5, the 4.5, the 4.0, the 3.0, all of them dropped. Okay, so Thor not doing so great. And again, this is why we not only show you the average, we also show you the individual grades, because single sets of data on their own can be misleading. You can draw some different conclusions, but if you look at data all sorts of different ways, it can help you conclude something a little bit differently or help you make a better decision on buying. Okay, here's the summary. Here are the 8 books. 4 red arrows going down, 4 green arrows going up. So we kind of had half and half, but for the books that went up, 3 of the 4 were 1% or less. And then the Hulk book, which was 11% up, 2 of the 3 grades actually went down. It was that 1 grade that went up by a lot that really drove that percentage. Whereas the 4 books that went down were all pretty significant percentages. And then I'm showing you here just the differences in grades that went up and went down. And then I add them up here. So overall, 20 grades went up, 29 grades went down. Again, this is for January and February of this year. So 60% of grades are still going down. It's not good, but we've had months where I do these videos where 80, 90% of the grades have gone down. So are things slowing down? I don't know, maybe, but this is the data for the first 2 months. And then here, look at the summary. I've taken all 8 books and made its own little trend chart. All 8 books together, we've lost about $500 on average to start the year. Only a 3% decrease, but the slow burn and downward trend continues. The big question is, what's going to happen in the future? No one knows, but I think it's safe to say that the slow downward trend will probably continue at least for a little while, right? Until we start seeing grades going up at least half the time, if not more. That's how it works, right? If more than half the grades go up, at some point your overall average is going to start going up. But we're not there yet. So what do we have coming next? We've got 8 books now. We just keep growing. We keep adding books, and I'm happy to do it. And I hope you guys like this data. We have another book coming next month. What is it? Well, finally, we're going to have Avengers #1. One of the last big Marvel keys from the Silver Age. We've also got Daredevil #1. I'm going to bring that one in too, especially with the Daredevil show out now. We're going to give that a couple months to simmer, and then we'll eventually bring in Daredevil #1. But next month, we're going to bring in Avengers, see how it does. That's it. I hope you like the data. Let me know if you think this trend's going to continue. When do you think it's going to turn around? We know nobody knows that answer. We do think that it's going to keep going down at least for a little while. Let me know if you agree. Until next time, have a great day.